Hello everyone, welcome. I'm sure you have studied about this experiment before, and many of you might have even performed this experiment. If not, you can perform it. For this, you need a medium-sized potted plant, and one of the branch of this potted plant will cover it with polythene bag. We'll tie polythene bag and keep this particular potted plant under sunlight for around 2 to 3 hours. Now, after 2 to 3 hours, we see water droplets formed or water droplets inside the polythene bag. On the inner surface, we see water droplet. Now the question is, from where has this water droplet come? This water droplet is the water vapor which got condensed on the inner surface of the polythene bag. And this water vapor was the water vapor which got lost from the aerial part of the plant, that is through leaves. This particular process by which plant loses water in the form of water vapor from the aerial part of the plant called as, yes, correct, transpiration. So we are going to understand about transpiration in this particular video. Now there is one question which is asked regarding this experiment, and the question is why the lower part of the plant or the pot of the plant is not covered by polythene bag. You may guess the answer. Okay. Now the answer is so as to ensure that the water which is lost or water droplet which we see in the polythene bag is the water which is lost from the plant and not from the soil. Okay, so myself Sanjeevani Nayak will explain you about the transpiration in this particular video, and by the end of this particular video you will be able to understand the kinds of transpiration, that is types of transpiration, and also the mechanism of transpiration. Let us begin. Now, mostly we have studied about the transpiration through leaves, through the minute pores present on leaf called as stomata. But there are more types of transpiration. So let us understand all the types of transpiration. So there are 3 types of transpiration. The first one is stomatal transpiration, and stomatal transpiration is the loss of water from the leaves through the stomata. We know, we have studied that on the surface of the leaf, on the upper and lower surface of the leaf, there are minute pores present, and those minute pores are called as stomata. So if water or when water is lost from this minute pore or stomata, it is called as stomatal transpiration. So water, when it is lost from the minute pore of stomata, is called as stomatal transpiration. Now the next type of transpiration is the lenticular transpiration. Now lenticular transpiration, what is it? Lenticels are the minute pores present on the bark of the old stem. So on old stem, there are minute pores present on the bark, and these minute pores are called as lenticels, which are open always, and through these lenticels some amount of water is lost, and this is called as lenticular transpiration. The third one is cuticular transpiration. Now, cuticular transpiration is the loss of water from the surface of the leaf or stem. Cuticle is the covering which is present on the surface of leaf or stem. So, from the surface, when water is lost or when water is evaporated, it is called as cuticular transpiration. Let us understand one by one. We'll begin with the stomatal transpiration. Now, to understand stomatal transpiration, first we'll understand the structure of stomata or structure of stoma. Stoma is the singular term. So, single pore is called as stoma, and many pores which are present on the surface of the leaf are called as stomata. So, there are minute pores present on the surface of the leaf. Okay, and these minute pores are called as stomata. We will study the structure of stomata. In exam, this is as per drawing. If question comes to draw stomatal apparatus, this is the entire diagram which you have to draw. Stomatal apparatus, you have to draw the epidermal cells. Now what is it? Let us understand one by one. So minute pore is called as stoma, singular pore is called as stoma. This stoma is enclosed by bean-shaped cell, and these 2 bean-shaped cells are called as guard cells. So guard cells are the cells which regulates the opening and closing of stoma. which controls the opening and closing of stoma. Now, this particular guard cell is surrounded by the epidermal cells or epidermis. The stomata or minute pores are present on the surface of cell, and surface cells are called as epidermal cells. This guard cell, if you carefully see, guard cell has thick inner cell wall. So, inner cell wall of guard cell is thick, whereas the outer cell wall of guard cell is thin. And guard cells are the only cells on the surface which has chloroplast present in it. So chloroplast is present in the guard cell, and also nucleus and cytoplasm. So these are the structure which has to be labeled in your diagram. And of course, you have to draw epidermal cell without intercellular space. Epidermal cell is a layer of cell without intercellular space. So this is the structure of stomata. Now the question is, what is the function of stomata? Now stomata opens, we know stomata opens during daytime. It opens during daytime for exchange of gas for photosynthesis. And when we say for photosynthesis, means carbon dioxide is taken. Carbon dioxide is taken in, or carbon dioxide enters in the leaf through this minute pore, and oxygen is lost. Oxygen is given out. So this exchange of gas is the exchange of gas which is for photosynthesis. So during daytime, we know the leaf prepares food during daytime. So during daytime, for preparation of food or to perform photosynthesis, it needs carbon dioxide. Stomata opens so as to take carbon dioxide, and during this particular process, oxygen is lost. And also water is lost through the stomata, which is called as transpiration. But you have to remember, function of stomata is for exchange. Function of stomata is to exchange gas for photosynthesis and not to transpiration. Transpiration occurs along with it. So this is all about the structure of stomata. Now, number of stomata. There are around 1,000 to 10,000 stomata per square centimeter. So if you take a small part or centimeter of leaf and observe under a microscope, we'll see around 1,000 to 10,000 stomata. And number may differ. That is, example, in dicot leaf. When we say dicot leaf, dicotyledonous plant, leaves of dicotyledonous plant shows more number of stomata on the lower surface as compared to the upper surface. And dicotyledonous plants are the plants in which seeds have two cotyledon. Example gram, chana जिसे हम बोलते हैं. So chana or gram or pea, we know seeds split into two parts. So two parts are called as dicotyledon. Now let us understand the vertical section of leaf. So this vertical section of leaf, there are two surfaces, upper surface and lower surface. Surface cells are called epidermis, epidermal cell, and the surface tissue is called as epidermis. So this is the upper epidermis, lower epidermis. Upper and lower epidermis of leaf releases or secretes wax, and this waxy covering present is called as wax cuticle. Between the upper epidermis and lower epidermis, the tissue which is found is called as mesophyll. So mesophyll is the tissue which is found between the upper and lower epidermis. Mesophyll are classified into two types: palisade mesophyll and spongy mesophyll. Palisade mesophyll cells are the elongated cells which are found just below the upper epidermis. So these are long cells with less or no intercellular space. Whereas towards the lower epidermis, the mesophyll cells have intercellular space or air cavity present between the cells. This is called as spongy mesophyll. Spongy means basically sponge or with air space. So spongy mesophyll is the mesophyll tissue which is present towards the lower surface, and palisade mesophyll is the mesophyll tissue which is present towards the upper epidermis or just below the upper epidermis. So this is all about the structure, that is vertical section of the leaf. Here on the lower epidermis, there are minute pores and single minute pore is called as stoma, and many minute pores together are called a plural term is stomata. And stomata is enclosed or covered by two guard cells, kidney shaped cells or bean shaped cell called as guard cells. Now let us understand the mechanism of stomatal transpiration. How does stomatal transpiration occur? Now, water is absorbed by root. Whatever water is absorbed by root is transported to the upper part of the plant. It rises up through stem and it is transported via xylem. It reaches to the leaves. Okay. Before that, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon. Now, the water which has risen up through stem reaches to the leaf through veins. So, leaf has veins present in it. Now, here I'll show veins. So, suppose here there is the vein. Okay. And in this particular vein, there are two types of cells found. There are two types of tissue found. And the two types of tissue are xylem and phloem. So, I'll show xylem with the blue circle. So, this is the xylem. Now, xylem, we know it transports water. Now, this particular water which has entered in the leaf, okay, this particular water will enter in the tissue, that is mesophyll tissue, by the process called as osmosis. So, by osmosis, water enters in the mesophyll tissue. Now, mesophyll tissue, as soon as water enters in the mesophyll cells, okay, mesophyll cells become turgid. When we say turgid, that is, it becomes firm due to entry of water molecule. And due to entry of water molecule, when the cells become turgid, we know the pressure or the force which is exerted by the inner content of the cell on the cell wall is called as turgor pressure. So due to this turgor pressure, thin film of water comes out. Thin film of water comes out. Okay, and it forms or simply thin film of water is formed around the cell wall. These mesophyll cells, you can see it is exposed to intercellular space. So whatever water with film of water which is formed or which comes out of the mesophyll cell, this water evaporates and saturates the air present in the intercellular space. So it evaporates and saturates the air present in the intercellular space. Now this particular water, it moves from one intercellular space to other intercellular space by the process called as diffusion. And finally, this water molecule reaches to the substomatal space. So here you can see space below the stomata is called as substomatal space. So this space is called substomatal space. So water molecule has reached to substomatal space. Now, water molecule when it reaches, water vapor when it reaches to the substomatal space, air over here will get saturated, concentration of water is more in the substomatal space, and if the concentration of water is less in the outer atmosphere, outside the leaf, water will diffuse out through stomata. Water comes out through stomata. That is, it escapes through stomata. So, this is the complete mechanism of stomatal transpiration. Now, I would suggest you all to take either screenshot of this particular part or note it down, this entire mechanism of stomatal transpiration. Note it down in your book. So this is complete stomatal transpiration. What you have to remember is when this particular water is lost from the xylem, vacuum is created or a pull is created which causes a rise in water level. This pull is called as transpirational pull. And this transpirational pull pulls the entire water column up in xylem and which leads to absorption of more water from the soil by roots. Okay, let us quickly revise the complete mechanism of stomatal transpiration. So stomatal transpiration begins with the absorption of water by root. So water which is absorbed by the root is transported to the leaf through stem, that is by xylem. And water is brought in the leaf by vein. And this particular vein has xylem. Okay, so from xylem, water comes out and enters in the mesophyll cells by the process called as osmosis. And water from this mesophyll cell passes to the another cell by the similar process, that is osmosis. Now, due to the osmosis, we know this particular cells are exposed to the intercellular space, And due to the osmosis, turgor pressure is developed in the mesophyll cells. And due to this turgor pressure, thin film of water comes out of the cell. So here you can see thin film of water which is formed outside the cell, that is on the cell wall. This particular water then evaporates in the intercellular space, moves in the intercellular space. And when it is moving in the intercellular space, it gets evaporated and this air inside this intercellular space gets saturated. Now, this particular saturated air or water vapor moves from one intercellular space to another intercellular space. And finally, it reaches to the substomatal space. Air reaches to the substomatal space. So, space which is just below the stomata is called as substomatal space. And from this particular substomatal space, water vapor evaporates or escapes out through stomata or through stoma by the process called as diffusion. That is, movement of water molecule occurs from higher water concentration that which is there in the substomatal space and the lower water concentration outside. So the movement of water was by diffusion. Water vapor was by diffusion. And most of the water molecule which is passing from cell to cell is by imbibition, that is, it transport through the cell wall, and not by osmosis. Very few water molecule is passed from one cell to another by osmosis. Most of the water molecule is moved by imbibition. And we have studied about imbibition. Imbibition is the surface attraction of water. Water gets attracted on the cell wall and it is moving from one cell to another cell. This is all about the mechanism of stomatal transpiration. I hope you understood and I hope you have noted down this entire process. So now we'll move to the another type of transpiration, that is lenticular transpiration. Lenticels. Lenticels are the minute pores or special openings developed on the bark of the older stem in place of stomata. So in older stem, we see minute pores present. Here you can see the minute pore present. Okay. Now this particular minute pores are called as lenticels, and water escapes out through lenticel is called as lenticular transpiration. Now its function, if in exam question is asked to write the function of lenticels, you have to remember lenticels function is not transpiration, but its function is diffusion of gases for respiration. So function of lenticel is it allows diffusion of gases for respiration. That is, oxygen from the atmosphere enters in the tree and carbon dioxide moves out. Along with this carbon dioxide moving out, some amount of water molecule is also lost, and so this loss of water molecule is called as lenticular transpiration. Now you have to remember this lenticels is always open. Okay. Water evaporates through lenticels and so it is called as lenticular transpiration. Lenticular transpiration is less than stomatal transpiration but more than the cuticular transpiration. Now let us understand what is cuticular transpiration. We have studied that leaves of or aerial part of the plant secretes waxy layer, water resistant layer, which is called as cuticle. Okay, cuticle basically helps to prevent evaporation of water from the surface of the leaf, but then too some water gets evaporated. Okay, now this particular transpiration or evaporation of water from the surface of the leaf or from the surface of stem is called as cuticular transpiration. Greater the thickness of cuticle, less will be the transpiration or evaporation of water. It has been observed that in plants which grows in desert or hot and dry region, they have thick cuticle so as to prevent excess loss of water. So with this, we have completed the kinds of transpiration. We have studied about the three types of transpiration: stomatal transpiration, lenticular transpiration, and cuticular transpiration. Also, we studied in detail about the mechanism of stomatal transpiration. I hope you understood, and if you understood, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel, Sanjeevani Nayak. Thank you very much.